Hello and welcome to the second episode of Expat Project Manager Her Story, our new podcast dedicated to women in project management, living, working, and studying abroad. I'm Julia Karavayeva and I have my co-host Magda Scrobota here with me. And
Hello, guys.
today, and today we're diving into a fascinating topic, cultural awareness for expat women in project management. And with that, I'm passing over to you, Magda, for you to share with the listeners what we intend to cover today.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. So today, I think we try to give you just a bit of theory concepts, so then you can apply it in your daily life, in your projects as well. We will briefly go through iceberg theory and then Hofstede cultural dimension model, and then you will see applied to the model as well.
Thank you, Magda. And before we dive in deeper into this conversation, let's discuss why being aware of cultural differences is an important conversation to have. The key role and responsibility of a project manager is not really task allocation as many may think. It's really communication, collaboration with the project teams, stakeholders, clients. It's establishing those working relationships and the right atmosphere with the people whose contributions are important for the success of a project. So when we talk about expat PM, of course, we mean that this person lives in a different than their home country, right? So they need to be aware of those cultural differences in the society they live and working, and that's one aspect. And the second aspect is that in our modern world, we often manage remote and multicultural teams, and we should be aware of differences between different members of those teams, right? If they live in other countries. And passing over to you, Magda, why you think it's important to raise awareness?
Well, I think you pointed very well because now we work in remote and with distributed teams, and we've been working like that not only since the pandemic, but some of us even before the pandemic. I myself have worked remotely for many years before pandemic, but I think it's important to understand better your peers, your teams, your management. So then, when you have those kind of indicators of their culture, and that's why we have the organizational culture in companies as well, because they become a micro ecosystem, yeah, each company. So then that's why we have values. That's why we have different behaviors and different assumptions of how the world perceives us and how we perceive them. So I think culture is so important, but maybe let's go deeper into those theory concepts so then
Let's do
we will
it.
explain more. Yeah.
Let's totally do that. So, yes, if you want to start and share what you've
Mhm.
prepared in the first theory,
Sure.
I'm sure listeners would love to hear from you.
So the iceberg theory is made by this very well-known gentleman, Edward T. Hall, and he was the first one to link it to the culture. And we all know what iceberg is about, that it has a visible part above the water and the invisible part inside the water, and the majority of the invisible part is actually the biggest, the largest, yeah, part of the iceberg. So when we talk in terms of the culture, then whatever is visible is what you perceive, what you see immediately, what is in front of your eyes, what you can detect and sense, yeah. And that might be the architecture, the symbols, the food, tasty or not tasty depending on your taste as well, the clothing, how national costumes and all traditions that they are manifested through the clothing, and then language, of course, because language is how we express ourselves, yeah. And it has all roots deepened into the culture of this nation or even organization than the culture. Even in organizations we use acronyms, right? So it can be this part of the language, yeah. Then what is not visible is this part that is related to the values, to the beliefs, assumptions, so norms, laws, how people interact one with another, but at this level where not necessarily you will put a mark, a pin in it, but you know it's done like this because you were doing like this, or you notice other people doing like this, and somehow for us it became like accepted truth, and this is the norm. Yeah, these are the beliefs. And even deeper than that, there is this assumption that it's a hidden culture. So the hidden culture is the um that part of the culture that really resonates at this intrinsic level of the human being, and that those might be the biases, and we all have biases, and also the taboos. Yeah, the no, the faux pas, the what we shouldn't discuss, we shouldn't touch in any culture.
Mhm.
So what is your point of view on the iceberg
Yeah,
theory? Similar
yes.
to mine?
This is a massive topic for discussion, right? And I think we should also apply it to the countries where we used to work or where we work now and live. I was actually thinking, so what would be in Canada where I live now, for example, right? What would be the invisible part of the iceberg? I think one of them is people acknowledge the history, diversity, social value by pronouncing the indigenous land acknowledgement at the, say, beginning of the meeting or beginning of some sort of an event. And I think it's a classic example of the hidden part of the iceberg. It's not immediately obvious to the newcomers, right? But for Canadians, for those who've been living in the country, it's a sign, it's an effort toward reconciliation, acknowledgement of colonial history, etc. That's what I was thinking, example-wise, in
Yeah.
relationship to the iceberg theory and its invisible part.
Well, that was one little concept of theory. And then the second one I wanted to bring up today is the Hofstede model. So Gerd Hofstede was a very intelligent and renowned anthropologist from Holland. And over the years, he studied all this collaboration mechanism, communication between employees in IBM, because he's done his study in IBM when he was working for IBM, and it was a very lengthy study over the course of a decade or even more. And then he took even a sabbatic time, and he went and explored other cultures, and he deepened this research. And then of course all his life expanded the research on the culture and how people interact one with another, and what kind of conclusions he drew from there. Those are the um, dimensions of the model, of this cultural model that he put together with over the years. It expanded to 6 dimensions. Initially had 4. I will share the screen
And while you're
to.
sharing your screen, Magda, while you're doing that, just to hold a pause, fun fact about you, you are ex-IBM, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, and I am very proud that I share this kind of even connection with IBM, and that Mr. Hofstede was an IBMer as well. And I read even more today that he was actually teaching managers and teaching them actually management and how to behave. And it's even more interesting. That's how he started his psychology studies. Yeah.
Awesome.
So then in this model, he decided that there are more or less around 6 dimensions, and the power distance, the first one, is related to how different countries, organizations, yeah, group of people, they relate to the power and who holds the power, and if this power is reachable by the other parties, not the ones in power, and if um, if they are willing to even share the power, so share the
Mhm,
authority, yes, and
mhm,
what how people relate to the power, if they will be um, if free, if they will be easy to express their opinion or not.
mhm.
So more or less in this way, we should understand the power distance.
So
And
just
it's
to
also next.
summarize, yeah, yeah. Sorry, just to summarize, if I understand that correctly, and feel free to correct me. There are two types of power distance, right? By Hofstede's theory, high power distance and lower power distance. And some
Mhm.
countries have higher power or higher distribution of power, and by that we mean hierarchical structures are accepted, authority is more respected, right? And
Yeah.
in countries with lower power distance, power is distributed more or less equally. Society is more open for communication with leaders.
Yeah.
Communication is more open doors policy, etc. Right?
Yes, yes. And if we go to specific countries, US has an index of 40 in this power distance, and Guatemala has 95, meaning that
Uh,
they are
Out of
questioning whoever
100, right?
is in power. Yeah, so in
Mm-hmm.
US they can question who is in power. They are challenging this status quo. So whereas in Guatemala they would accept as it is, as a given fact.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess we will dive deeper, right, in our
Yeah, of
episode,
course.
in our discussion with, looking into specific countries we used to work and live in, right?
Sure. And then another dimension is the individualism versus the collectivism. And this is pretty easy to understand. And I think everybody relates because you are either going for your own benefit and you are running for yourself as an individual, and it's an I do, I care, and I don't care. And then the
Mm-hmm.
collectivism, which is the we do and we want to achieve something and we grow our relationship and we are not interested in the final target or destination and the material benefit. And if I give you some index of the country, then I think you will understand more that the US has a very high index of 91 for the individualism, and I think it
Right.
doesn't come as a surprise.
No, no, it doesn't. No, absolutely. So again, to kind of summarize, but it is self-explanatory as you explained. So individualistic cultures with focus on self-reliance, personal responsibility, my own path in career, my personal choice, uh, my body, my choice, and collectivist culture, right? Emphasis on group harmony, loyalty, teamwork. Let's do it together. Let's do that as a team. All of us, let's go and spend some time outside of work in a pub together, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the other dimension is this masculinity versus femininity. For recently, they wanted to change due to the whole discussion around the gender and the inclusiveness and the idea of more genders. But
Mm,
the whole, let's say, difference between these two elements is that the masculinity would thrive on competition, on ambitiousness, on anything that has more, let's say, egocentrism as well, and
mm,
material success, those kind of
mhm,
elements, yeah, that you would recognize in
mhm.
masculine energy. Because now still we have this masculine versus feminine energy as well, right? It became again a hot topic. And then the femininity is more about the growing the relationship, caring for the ones that are weak, exploring this more softened part and exploring more the connections between people rather than just achieve the success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we had an interesting conversation with you last week. I'm sure you will remember that, how I had a bulb moment about masculine cultures and feminine cultures applicable to waterfall or traditional project management
Yeah,
approaches and agile project management approaches. And again, I ask listeners to challenge me, but I could see parallels with waterfall equals masculine approach, feminine equals agile. And by that, I mean traditional waterfall project management approaches, they have constraints of time, budget, and scope, focused,
mm,
clear constraints, right? And while nowadays we're moving more towards the value, what's project success, delivering value that is worth the effort and expense, right? Something softer, something utilizing value. And the reason I'm looking on my board, I still cannot memorize the new definition of project success by PMI, and I
Yeah,
have.
I used it somehow in an article as well, but I still cannot say it
Right.
by
Yeah.
word.
So
Yeah.
the, and that, I think that's the problem a lot of project management professionals have. They still cannot define that new definition. They cannot understand, right? Or they don't have material components in that new definition. That's
Yeah,
why they're
it is
moving
true.
towards that three constraints, which is easier to measure, essentially, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because well, I was reading and I'm studying for something new again in project management because we all the time study and we all the time grow ourselves. And they say that the value is just the perception. So it's the perception of the other one in front of you and what is valuable to him or to her. So you see how it's linked back to this iceberg theory of the assumptions, yeah, and the perception. So yeah.
Another interesting theory for discussion next time. Let's get back to our
Mhm.
cultural awareness.
Sure, and the other dimension is the certainty avoidance. So this tells you how good people feel in a world where there are not so many rules, in
Mm.
ambiguity or in chaos. So this could actually work for our project management environment when there is no process, there is no established path, and then you thrive in it or not as a project manager. So yeah, that's the uncertainty avoidance.
Yeah, I always have to remind myself what's uncertainty avoidance. It takes me a couple of seconds to refresh my memory. What exactly is that, right? So in my mind, it's risk, right?
Mhm.
How risky a company or a country is or a society is, right? Where in countries with higher uncertainty avoidance, they prefer rules and structures. They prefer avoiding risks, right? And
Yeah.
in lower uncertainty avoidance countries and societies, they're more open to flexibility, experimentation,
Yeah.
adapting to change. Oh, let's just do it. No project plan, that's fine. We'll just do it the agile way.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And if you want to put a pin on countries, then the Nordic countries, they have low uncertainty avoidance. So they are very open to experiment and open to other society as well. Yeah. And the last
Hmm.
two, they are pretty more or less self-explanatory because the long term versus the short term really focus on how the country or the nation sees themselves in the short term or long term,
Hmm.
and what is a bit, let's say, contradicting, or for me it sounds a bit contradicting, is that the ones looking in short term, they are actually the ones that are more rooted in tradition, the ones that are holding to their ethnicity, values, and tradition, and still they look for the short term, yeah, revenue, the short
Hmm.
term benefits. Whereas the long term, they look for growing this relationship, accumulating, going for new challenges, accumulating new experiences, and then reaping benefits over long term. Yeah.
This is interesting, right? So, long-term versus short-term orientation, long-term values planning, persistence. Again, yeah, that they're less risky, right? They want to have a plan. I think I'm repeating myself, but just I think I'm just talking through to understand for myself and for our listeners what's long-term
Yeah.
versus short-term orientation is. And the short-term focuses on immediate outcomes, right?
Mhm.
Traditions, social
Yeah, and it's
obligations.
somehow more relevant for countries that are not very well doing from the economic perspective. So this is something also related
Mm,
to short term, the economical or development as well.
right.
And the indulgence and restraint, I think this one you will love because the indulgence is the this element that allows people to live their life and have fun. And it was funny for me to discover as well. And whereas the restraint is the one that they go by the law, and you just have to act because it's written law or not even written law, and life is to be serious, not to have fun.
Yes, yes, interesting. I kind of forgot about this indulgence versus restraint. But of course, yeah, indulgent cultures enjoy leisure, fun, freedom.
Yeah,
And I think that
and
would be Northern American, right? Probably
the
they
ones
would
that
score high.
they have very high are the Latin countries. No surprise there because it's Viva la vida and yeah, carpe diem all the way. But and the restraint is not a surprise for you either, I think,
No,
because they are
no.
Eastern countries, Eastern European countries. The restraint one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, former USSR, right? Eastern
Yeah,
European. I would say, well, communist countries as well, ex and current communist countries, right?
yeah.
And the restraint culture probably depends on the political structure.
And
Uh,
Even East Asia, they fall into this restraint. Maybe it has to do something with the tradition and how they see their past versus future as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to see how that applies to a project team, a workplace, right? I
Mm-hmm.
would assume that indulgent cultures, they promote flexible working hours, right? For example, statutory holidays like Canada. Canada has 11 statutory holidays in a year, and it's
Yeah.
encouraged to take a long weekend in order to spend it with your family, with your loved ones, with your friends, right? So
Mm-hmm.
probably work-life balance is a good example for indulgent cultures,
Oh yeah.
countries. While restrained culture will be focused on formal work structure, you have to work 5 days a week. You cannot take time off unless you book it in advance. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that all six? Correct me if
Yeah.
our
We
six
managed to go
categories.
through all of them.
So, Magda, I suggest we dive deeper into the countries where we live and work. And I shared in the first episode that I was born and raised in Kazakhstan, and I used to work in UK, and I work in Canada. And you shared previously that you worked in Poland and also, I understand, France. And please add your countries. I don't remember all of them. There
Yeah,
is a
I
list of.
worked in Poland and I am from Romania, but I lived in Sweden and Germany. So we want to start with some countries.
Yeah, let's choose two countries, for example, right? And we will run them through that Hofstede globe. And for our listeners, it does have a disclaimer. Scoring for some of those countries is based on assumptions, but we will share a link with you here. Please feel free to go to this website. It's exhibitionguardhofstede.com, and you can play with your country. So we've chosen two
Mhm.
countries, right? Canada and Kazakhstan.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And for
let's do
Canada,
it.
we have power distance 39, so they challenge the authority and they think everybody can have a chance of the power as well. So I didn't expect
Yes.
anything else. Yeah. Indulgence
So
is 68. I thought that somehow they like to party more or live more in Canada. Yeah.
So I can probably say since I've been living in Canada for what 7 years or so. So in Canada, power distance 39. That means out of 100, right? That's a lower, relatively low score. We assume that in Canada they have open door policy. You can approach a CEO or senior manager, executive suite with just a name. You don't need to use sir. Etc. Right? You can easily say hi, Mike,
Yeah.
to your CEO. You can openly share your point of view with the team and with your supervisors and your managers, not being afraid to share your personal point of view. You can challenge decisions made by senior members of the team. That's power distance in Canada and a pretty low score. 39 out of
Mhm.
100. Indulgence, you say 68 out of 100. And you're surprised that it's relatively low, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I can only assume, and my justification of a scoring of 68 out of 100 in the indulgence category for Canada would be that at the end of the day, it's an immigrant country.
Mm.
First, second, third generation of immigrants. They like focusing on work and work hard, right? That's probably an explanation for me, but I will ask our listeners to share their ideas why
Of course.
indulgence scoring in Canada is 68 out of 100, which is actually higher than 50, right? I'd say that's fair. Canadians know how to work and how to indulge at the same time, pretty much balancing. Yeah.
And what about the masculinity, 52?
Masculinity 52, I think that's 52 out of 100 is a good score, almost 50-50. I would say not a surprise for me here. Yes, performance is still based on meeting budget, meeting certain key performance indicators,
Yeah.
and meeting success metrics, but not over the top, right? We can check Kazakhstan versus Canada.
Oh, we have power distance 90 in Kazakhstan.
Yes, that's not a surprise for me. And although I left Kazakhstan 20 years ago or so, and if we have any project managers still working and living in Kazakhstan, please do share with me if I'm mistaken now and if things have changed in the past 20 years. But seeing power distance scoring of 90 out of 100 in Kazakhstan is not a surprise for me. What that means is that authority, structure, seniority is important in Kazakhstan, and
Mhm.
it's not as easy for project team members to challenge decision of higher authority of senior leaders. Uh,
Mhm.
team members will not be doing that. It's just not in the Kazakhstani culture. It's and of course you have to you cannot call a senior manager, right, or a CEO by just name. You have to use name and patronymic.
Oh,
That's pretty
really?
common. Yeah, you
Only
absolutely have to. Maybe some things have
corporations.
changed, but specifically in governmental organizations, you have to refer to people by name and patronymic, as I
Mm-hmm.
think is the case in all or maybe almost all former USSR countries, I would suspect. So yes, hierarchy is strongly respected. Decision making is centralized and is with the executive suite. Communication is formal. You will have to, I guess, book a meeting. You cannot just open the door, and I suspect there isn't much of an open door policy in Kazakhstan. But again, if project managers in Kazakhstan could challenge me, I'm open for that. What's the next category for Kazakhstan?
Indulgence, so they don't party much or they don't have fun.
Well, w- I'm not too sure about that. We have big culture of partying in Kazakhstan, actually. Toys, right? Toy is big people gathering where you have
Mm-hmm.
hundreds and hundreds of people and you celebrate something together. But maybe lower indulgence scoring of 40 out of 100 means less fun at a workplace,
Mm-hmm.
stronger emphasis on responsibilities, obligations, stronger emphasis on
Yeah.
your 8 to 5 work schedule,
Mm-hmm.
stronger emphasis to your Monday to Friday. Um, People prioritize work. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they prioritize family responsibilities, right? Community obligations over vacation or recreational activities. And I suspect you cannot just take vacation with a short notice. You have to book it in advance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably for me a justification of lower indulgence scoring for Kazakhstan.
Yeah. So maybe it's more like the strictness of the society and doing everything by the law, by some rules.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Work
the
over fun.
masculinity is 50, so they are in the middle. So still.
Interesting, this one, right? Masculinity scoring of 50 out of
Mhm.
100. I'm surprised, and I don't
So the more
know.
feminine society.
I think so. I think it's a masculine society. I'm surprised to see the scoring of 50, even
Mm-hmm.
lower than Canada, right? Canada was what, 52 or something?
Yeah. So they
Uh,
are more going after success and not caring much for the relationship. Well, at least that's the explanation of this
yeah.
masculinity there. Yeah.
Hmm.
Not
I
nurturing relationships and so on.
Yeah, I don't know, and I will ask our listeners. Please share. Why do you think masculinity scoring is 50 in Kazakhstan? And please share your examples.
Okay, so now that we've seen Canada with Kazakhstan, maybe we can show other countries, well, relevant for us. Either we lived, either we were there. Um, so
What
let's,
about choosing Poland, where you currently live, and for example,
yeah,
the UK?
yeah.
So to those listeners who
Mm.
just joined us, we are looking into the Hofstede's model and discussing cultural awareness for women in project management, living, studying, and working abroad.
So we will select here, reset the countries, and we go to pick up Poland here. And
Yeah.
which one you said you want to see?
UK, Scotland, yes,
Ah,
this
okay.
one. Great
Okay.
Britain. Yeah,
Okay. We were both expats there. I'm still
that's
I'm still
right. Yes, the UK and Poland, and now we need to decide the categories or Hofstede's
okay.
models
So
dimensions.
we can
Mhm.
keep the power distance, or maybe you want to see the individualism for the
Yeah,
Great
let's do
Britain,
individualism. That's a good one. Yeah.
how cool they are with ambiguity and chaos. Let's see this uncertainty avoidance and indulgence. That should be fun to see. Okay, so I will start with Poland because somehow it shows up in this graphic. From the individualist perspective, they are on 60. So what does this 60 tell us? It tells that they are pretty individualistic and they want to fight for themselves and they are not much belonging to a group. Yeah, they are not into the collectivism. Although I ran a bit for myself this exercise for Poland because I was curious and I was also discussing with my friends in Poland and I was asking, why do you think it's high? Because you were still into all this
That's right.
communism perspective, yeah, and you have
Yeah.
collectivism, and people
Yes.
were grouped by the same thoughts, by
Yes.
the work, by, and they said that actually they were pretty much individualistic even in the communist time, and they were fighting for themselves, and they were actually doing everything for their own benefit, even at the consequence of the other one. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's why it explains why they are scoring pretty much high on the individualism there. And from what I see from my experience and from workplaces, I would say yeah, they are pretty competitive. So they want to win. They are pretty competitive. In their
Oh.
certainty avoidance, they have 93, and that doesn't surprise me at all because well, you had a similar explanation and experience, let's say, with Kazakhstan, yeah. But here
Mhm.
in Poland, for me, it's pretty much related to their tradition, to their religion. They are pretty much into conservatism. So then they are not willing to change very much and fast. Although we are not speaking here about the economical development, we are speaking about actually how people are perceiving their whereabouts, yeah, and how they easy they can open up for other people, yeah. And you have to see it from the perspective that these measurements were done over the years, and more or less whatever it was measured, a lot of it was measured before the 90s, I would assume, and later it's not so much data coming. So when things started to be more open up, and they had immigration migration in Poland. Then this
Mhm.
was after joining the European Union. So after 2004, I think they joined. So then it explains why still the uncertainty avoidance is pretty high. So they
Mhm.
are not willing to take risk. They are not embracing the challenges, and they want to keep things structured, yeah, and have some rules to guide themselves by.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So Polish people value rules, right? Detailed plans. Can
Yeah,
you see that reflected in your day-to-day project management, life and work? Detailed plans, structure, minimization of
I
risk registers in place.
Yeah, I would say yes, because even though I work in Poland, majority of my management and their management as well is coming from other countries, UK,
Mm,
France, US,
right.
and then even when there are not so much structure put in place, not that we don't have the template for that, or we don't have the process for this,
Mm,
then they would try to put these steps there, just to probably it comes from this way of how they were brought up and their own understanding. We need rules, we need to have structure, and things need to be clearly put in a box, categorized, and then you put it out from the box, you play with it and put it back, yeah. So I think, yeah, they are like this in project management as well.
What about indulgence? Indulgence, I see 29 out of 100.
But this is what completely shocks me. I didn't check the indulgence before in Poland. I think they are pretty fun people and they like to party a lot. And yeah, I wouldn't say that, but this is more like not the people themselves, how they are, let's say, enjoying their life. It's more or less how the society, how the authority lets the people enjoy and go for their desires. So when you relate to the years of the communism and this transition to
Yeah.
capitalism and democracy, and recent events in Poland, which are not very, yeah, nice to discuss, let's say, about it, and the view on the female body, for example, that shows you that, yeah, they are not very indulgent. So it is
Interesting.
some
Yes.
reality.
So would you say that Poland is a restraint-oriented culture where, say, gratification is controlled and people are focused more on maintaining discipline, adhering
I
to
would say
rules?
I would say the religion plays still a major
Mm,
part in Poland, and majority they still relate to this religion concepts, and also they value tradition, they value family,
yeah,
so and they are proud of their heritage and their culture as well. So
that
probably
explains.
this way it explains, yeah,
Yes.
those.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. A lot of new things I find out today in talking with you, Magda. Okay, shall we
Mhm.
move on to the UK, Great
Yep.
Britain?
Let's see what Great Britain is doing. Definitely better scoring in indulgence, and I didn't expect it any other way.
What's the indulgence scoring for UK?
69.
69 out of 100. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a sign that people
They
in the UK are enjoying life, right?
yeah, they are
They,
they are enjoying it in Poland as well. So there are many tourists coming from UK in Poland. Yeah.
yeah, but probably work-life balance, right, is an important part of life, or specifically of Scottish people. That's for
Scottish
sure, because I
people.
used to live in Scotland, and
Mhm.
people value enjoying life, booking holidays in advance, right? Vacation is a conversation, central conversation when you have
The
your
water cooler. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, your 10 o'clock break. That's what people are talking about vacation being planned. So people do enjoy their time off, pursuing leisure, expressing personal happiness, and that's reflected in the relatively high scoring of 69 out of 100 for indulgence. Mhm.
Yeah.
What's
And
the next one?
they are
Individualism.
individualists. And I think it's pretty much fair, correct, yeah, because if you think about it, US had 91, and it's, yeah, related countries in the end, yeah. I would say, yeah, it's correct.
I agree with you. Yes, the UK is a highly individualistic culture. People value personal achievements. They value personal development plans, right? Performance, annual performance, where they discuss personal achievements. They like independence. Well, the Scottish logo, right? You all have seen William Wallace: freedom, freedom and
Yeah.
independence, self-reliance. Um, yes, that's right. And success is measured by often measured by individual performance rather than team effort. So I would agree that 89 out of 100 for individualism is a good reflection of the UK culture.
Yeah, and the certainty avoidance is somewhere there where we expected that this is one of those countries that are willing to take new risks. They develop new technologies, for example. They go into new domains that were uncharted territories, and uh, they just assume the risk, yeah, and they take it and they work it out something from it.
Mm. Yes, this is an interesting one. So 35 low scoring out of 100 for uncertainty avoidance, meaning that people are more open to taking risks, right? They're more flexible. They're using flexible approaches to life, to work and life balance. Plans may evolve as projects progress. I don't remember actually if I saw any detailed project plans in the projects I used to be involved in, but probably I can relate that plans do evolve as project progresses. Uh,
Mhm.
so I would say, yeah, pretty low uncertainty avoidance scoring sounds about right for the UK.
Yeah, maybe they are willing to work with agile more from this uncertainty avoidance. Maybe this is
Mm.
another perspective to see things that if you want to work agile, then that's your country to go.
Yes, that's right. And also, I think uncertainty avoidance is an indicator of, say, employees, right, adapting quicker to changes. They're
Yeah.
more comfortable with this trial and error approach, right? So I would agree with you that agile and iterative methods are probably more common in British projects.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an awesome comparison. We've done with you, Magda. So what we've discussed today was the iceberg theory and the visible and invisible parts of culture. We've discussed with you Hofstede's theory model in detail. We
Mhm.
compared Canada with Kazakhstan and Poland with the UK. I enjoyed thoroughly our today's conversation. I hope that our listeners enjoyed it as well, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well, Magda.
I definitely enjoyed, and I think we provided some quick theoretical concepts that are universally applicable, and I also enjoyed showing those comparisons for different countries, and I hope our listeners found it interesting too, because we are waiting for their feedback and what you would like to hear from us and how you would like this podcast to be done. You see, we are still experimenting and still trying to find our niche, so looking forward to your feedback.
Yes, thank you so much for staying with us here today and listening to episode 2 about cultural awareness. Please follow us on YouTube, on LinkedIn. And it was a pleasure to be here today with you and discuss this topic. Thank you so much. Keep thriving,
Thank
keep working,
Thank you.
keep learning. Cheers.
See you next time. Thank you.